let me introduce Gabriele Romagnoli. He's the founder of Amsterdam-based GR Top, which is a firm that helps XR entrepreneur pitch their idea to investor, and he's also part of the Amsterdam Street Art Museum. So give him a round of applause.
Thank you. So, good morning. Just dying on the stage already. So, good morning, everyone. Today I'm going to tell you a little more about how I work together with the Street Art Museum of Amsterdam to preserve street art that is going to be destroyed. This is one, and right now it's gone. So this is basically some of the things we have done over the past months. But one thing is that I want to do is that I really wanted to share the workflow and tell you a little more about the tools, some of which are immersive tools that I use, so that you can just go back out of here with something that you can start and try experiment by yourself. One thing also is that my talk is not going to be extremely long, and I'd rather, please don't let me talk for 40 minutes. So if you have questions, raise your hand, interrupt me. We're going to have time in case we run out a bit of time. We can always have a chat later. And but please, if you have questions, interrupt me. I would love it. And on that, to give the good example, I would first like to ask a couple of questions, just to get a bit of an idea who is in the audience. Who has ever tried virtual reality? Okay. Who has ever instead created for virtual reality or augmented reality? Okay. Now, is there anybody in the room that has ever created in virtual reality for virtual reality? Tilt Brush, for example, is a tool that allows you to draw in space, and then that same creation can be brought and experienced in virtual reality. That's one of the things that I'm going to discuss with you today, showing you some of the tools that really allow you to create in immersive media for immersive media. But before I go into the, let's say, the technicalities, I just want to tell you a little bit about why this matters. And I think that the best way of doing that is really by guiding you the same process that turned me into a really believer of this project. And the way I want to do it is by showing you the artworks. So I've been working with the Street Art Museum of Amsterdam, and they've collected over 300 pieces from renowned artists worldwide. And it would be impossible to show you all of them, but I just picked 3 that I think are very, very relevant. So the first one is, if I switch this on, maybe it works. It does. So the first one is The Last Kiss, and it's inspired by a 500 years old Persian poem, and it's a statement for why street art is a means to spark a dialogue. In this case, the artist, Nafir, represents a man that has been hanged for his political stance. And you see that while he's pulled up by the snooze, he's still firmly rooted to the ground. While you see that the woman reaches out towards him as if she flies towards, like reaching him out for where he's gonna be. And what's interesting is that after the artwork was finished, someone approached Anna and accused her of painting pornography on the walls of what is basically a mostly Muslim neighborhood. Well, it took a while, but that's how it looks today. So you see how then, though, despite the initial disappointment, you realize how this and the ever-changing nature of street art makes it so much a stronger message. Because every time that Anna and her team will guide the people through a tour over the 300 pieces, they are going to tell this story. Another example is this one, The Milkmaid. Well, here is instead a way of how street art brings change in the community. So in this reinterpretation, in which you see, by the way, that the Milkmaid was also a pretty big fan of pirates, what happened is that they were doing a workshop and other activities to basically connect with the community. And a woman, again, approached Anna and said, "Look, but can you tell me one thing? Why are you painting a white Dutch woman on my wall where actually nobody in that building is either white or Dutch?" it is a legitimate question. What happened though is that after the workshop were finished, that same woman came back and thanked Anna for organizing workshop with their kids to teach them about creativity, arts, and so on. And that is again another way in which street art brings change. I want to give you another one, and this is the example of street art by the community for the community. And that's because the funding needed to the realization of this artwork were actually provided by the locals, and their names are here at the bottom of the artwork. And it's a very strong reminder of one of the most challenged neighborhoods of the city, New West, that the strongest are not the one with the sharpest teeth, but the one that protect the wicked others, like a shepherd girl carrying a lamb. And it's really this that matters. It's the work of the artist and the connection with the community, and all the work that the Street Art Museum of Amsterdam is doing with guided tours, with workshops, with schools, that makes this so special. And I would actually encourage everyone who has the chance to join one of these tours, because you're gonna explore and find things from monumental walls to tiny little details that you would have never ever noticed. But yet, how does this connect with virtual reality, right? What's the link there? Well, I personally love to tell story, and when technology comes into play, that's really the things I love. So while I was going through the feed on my Facebook, I saw that the Street Art Museum of Amsterdam was experimenting with virtual reality. So what I did, I created a little sample, I sent it to her, and I suggested to meet her up. We got a great tour, and while we were talking, I asked her, by the way, Anna, did you check it out? Did you see what I made, just to get an impression? No, I didn't. So we put it in a headset, and that's the moment that she got a bit emotional. She was like, what is happening here? She calls other people, look, safety is back. And that moment she takes these bricks and she shows, look, this is all that is left of safety. This is all that is left of that shepherd's girl. And she showed me the video of that day. Well, excavators were basically destroying the artwork. And this is the moment that you realize that preservation of street art is not just a nice to have, right? It's like, or we're doing it or we are losing this in a way. So this is basically what this is about, and how the connection and this collaboration started. Now, so what I'm gonna do today is tell you the story of two pieces, right? One is Fatherhood by Stingfish, and the other is Destiny by Scout. Both of these are very, I think, relevant stories, but it's not just about the story. For each one of them, I'm gonna guide you through the tools that I used, some of the workflows, so that you can start applying and experimenting with them straight away. So let's start with Fatherhood. Fatherhood is a piece of art made by Stingfish, a Colombian street artist, that goes around the world taking pictures of people, because the people are the one that leave the street, and turns these pictures into these magnificent murals. Fatherhood was inspired by a picture taken in Nepal, where at a bus stop, of a father carrying his child. And this was in a very, let's say, specific moment, because it was as an answer to the local municipality that during that time was providing funding to get fathers more engaged with their children. During that time also, the first Oculus Go was released. And what was interesting is that since not all the kids had a phone, they were basically driving the fathers out with one phone, a group of children going around. And since this wall was close to a pickup point, it was really funny and interesting to see how technology was driving kids and fathers outside more than what the initiative was doing. So this seemed to be like the best example that we could pick to do it, also due to this connection with technology. So how this all works, very, very high level, and then we're gonna dissect it like step by step. So the idea was that to have something that was a bit entertaining and a bit educational at the same time. And so we wanted to create a 360 video captured of an actual tour of Anna so that people could really experience being at the bottom of the artwork, and have a more entertainment section where basically we would be able to animate it. And so the way it started is that we took a lot of pictures of fatherhood using photogrammetry, and we created a 3D model out of it. After that, we brought it into this animated scene and in virtual reality. So that's the step where we created in virtual reality for virtual reality, and I'm going to show you straight away after. We were able to make a 360 video export of that creation, and then we combined with what was a 360 video in the real world to merge something that we could use and for a Google Cardboard or just on a phone, on your desktop, so it had to be very, very accessible for everyone. Now, from now on, I'm going to mention a lot of stuff, right? A lot of many programs, and what I've done is that I made these 2 pages so that at the end, if you're interested, you can find me on LinkedIn, you can come up here, send me an email, whatever you want, and you're gonna get these two pages with all the links, tutorial that I found to be the best from all this research, as well as links, hyperlinks, all the knowledge that I could get and put it here. So, as well as, of course, the link to the 2 final products. So, knock yourself off. Just let me know, and I would love to share it with you. So you don't have to remember any. And also I want to have state something, because I'm not affiliated with any of this, right? So if you hear me, maybe I'm enthusiastic or like I'm just trying to push it, it's just because I love it. That's the only reason. So, photogrammetry. Curious, does anybody ever work with photogrammetry? One. The others? Why not? No, just curious, because here when I started doing it was like, it's too complicated. It's not gonna work, too many steps. So that was my initial concern. Did anybody share that, or had other too complicated? Had anybody other reason? Maybe it's like no application for it, or
I don't know what it is.
Good point. Good point. So after you finished outside of here, you're gonna get a very good impression. So photogrammetry is basically a technique that allows you to recreate 3D objects from images. Okay? So the way it works is that you get a lot of images and it creates this point cloud. The point cloud turns into a mesh, you have a texture, you wrap it around the object, and there you have it. You have the object. That's easy, right? Yeah. Now, the fact is there are many software online that allow you to do that. Mushroom, reality capture, I believe, but the barrier of entry seems to be rather steep. So it's not something that you say, hey, okay, well, I can just try it out. Well, and I thought it was like, look, this is not gonna work until I found 3D Flow. So 3D Flow is a software, basically that it's the complete photogrammetry package. It allows you to dump pictures in and get a model out, as easy as that. And I'm not oversimplifying it. I believe that anybody in this room with his phone, with 3D Flow, can go out, following the tutorials that are in the PDF, can just start creating a 3D model of anything. Okay? So the only thing that you really have to do is taking pictures. Now, the tricky part of taking pictures is that there are some kind of like guidelines for that, right? And honestly, for the love of God, I couldn't find something that would tell me, do this, start with these settings, and then experiment from there. So what I did is just I made it. So what the picture have to be basically like not blurry. So that's why you don't have to you need to have a high shutter speed. The aperture needs to be about 8 or above, so that everything is on focus. ISO max 400 is good. 60 to 80% overlap, so basically you need to have a lot of picture turning around the object from like surrounding it if it's a single object from different heights. Reflective surfaces don't work. You can try to use polarized filter, but it's tricky, so cars are a mess. Repetitive patterns are also a mess, as you can imagine. because it's hard to recompose the image from the single picture. 18 to 50 millimeter lens, it's great. Don't go wide angle because the image is going to be distorted. It's going to be too hard to recompose. I used 24 millimeters, it worked. JPEG are okay. Don't use RAW because the computer it's gonna die. And no harsh sunlight. So basically, if you can, cloudy days here in the Netherlands, awesome, plenty of opportunities. So this is basically really just, this is what you can do to start, right? And so after a bit of experiments, that's the moment of the day of the shoot. So I get my whole fancy, if it will come. I think it will come. Or maybe not. We're gonna go to the end of this presentation straight away, look. Okay, let's oh wait. Okay, we're gonna try to go back here. Here we go. So I go there basically with all my equipment. It's nothing fancy, to be honest. I mean, there is a drone, just in case. I thought, hey, you never know. But cameras, very simple tripod, some lights. But you see also some interesting objects like a skateboard, some duct tape, the good one. You never know. Again, a wooden board, and you'll figure out at the end how I used it, because those were key for some things. So for the sake of the story, what happened is that I went there and I didn't know what had to be scanned yet. So Anna sent me an address, go there and start scanning fatherhood. So I'm there at the foot of this like 10 meters tall building, and you know what, there was strong wind, not very good with such a small drone, and there was harsh sunlight. Then, as you know, it's not really the best. But hey, what are you gonna do? One thing that was particularly useful was basically that 3D Flow also allows you to use a video. What that means is that it extracts the frames from the video, discarding the bad ones, and then you can reconstruct use those to reconstruct the 3D model. And of course, with something so tall, it would have been impossible without. So after 456 pictures, this is basically the result. And you see that each one of these little triangle is a picture. And result was pretty good. I was pretty happy with it. And you see really that in that moment, when you are really able to appreciate like the details, like for example, you have here the bikes that is engulfed by the vines, something that would pass unnoticed on a picture, or for example, the signature of the artist at the bottom right of the artwork. And indeed here you see, for example, you see here all the shadows. Those are indeed the shadows due to the sun, and it was particularly tricky, and I had to make sure that the coverage in that region was higher, so I had to take more picture to get this part with the signature properly represented. So, and you can actually also check it out on Google Poly. Yeah.
Do you see straight away the results when you're taking the photos?
No.
So how do you know you need more photos for that part?
Well, you know that in certain area that let's say you want to focus on, you're gonna have more pictures. For example, right? So in this case, I broke it. Yeah, the bike, right? The bike. I didn't take enough pictures. I had to take more, and in that moment it was tricky because the sun was coming out and back, because it was a cloudy day, but not too cloudy. So in that case, to have a better capture of this bike, I had to take more, right? So you don't. But in this case, what is always advisable is take extra, and you always have the chance to remove them afterward, of course. I took also pictures that basically messed up the whole capture. So you see it first from the point cloud that the wall does like this and then does like this. Then you're just like, okay, let me check which pictures were causing this, right? Because the software doesn't think, right? Try to put everything together, and sometimes those pictures may be slightly slanted, just mess up the whole capture. Okay. So now let's go to. So we had these 3D walls, but what are we gonna do with it? Well, I used Tvori. Tvori is something that you can download and start playing with it right now from Steam, and it's basically a VR application. Now, Tvori is basically an incredible sandbox because you can do almost anything. So you can import models from a Google Poly database. You have volumetric brushes that you can draw on. You have lights effect. You have a camera that you can play with and kind of like animate as well. Completely customizable with depth of field. You can animate. Meaning that you can grab an object, move it, and it's gonna remember and animate it as it was, as well as using keyframes for animation. You have a materializer that allows you to change colors and metal feel of the material. You have 360 camera that you can put in there. Mannequin to which you can attach your own 3D pieces and creation to create new characters. Those characters can have different proportion. It's insane, and I think it's amazing, but not because just I say it, but because people at Cartoon Network right now are using it. People at Disney are using it, and it's just speed up the workflow because also what you get out of Tvori, you can then bring it into Unity and keep working with it. And if you ever think of creating for immersive media, I would suggest to consider for the prototypes, at least for the prototype, to look at something like this. Because when you are in front of a screen, you will never ever get the good impression of how that is going to be experienced by the final user, right? The feeling of size, scales, and so on. And the way what we did basically is that we got a bunch of assets from the Unity asset store. I turned them in a couple of steps into Blender as a GLTF file, and then I could import in Tvori. So I get basically all the little blocks that I can use because I have no whatsoever 3D modeling experience. And you know what is amazing is just it's really that easy. You grab things, you put them there, right? So here I was trying to put a plank in position under above a hole, and then it's like, wait, it's not properly aligned. I'm gonna align it properly with the gizmo. Of course, I was not in the right perspective, so I had to change the scene and just do it properly. But then after, what you can do is that you can also experience how the final user would actually experience it, because you have a 360 animated camera that it's gonna move, and you're just gonna be there looking around and testing how this actually looks like. Of course, guess what's gonna happen to this plank? It's gonna break, and then you have here, oh, look, I had a geometry that was messed up. So something, I just grab another rocks, put it there, okay, good to go. And then that's the moment that you can just go back again and be animated, and you see this part when you rise up, and then you see basically fatherhood appearing in the scene. And here I want to show you just some very simple image that I take with the in-game camera. So there is this in-game camera that you can use to capture a scene or record it as a video, and these were created again without any knowledge about 3D modeling, right? It's really about just grabbing stuff and putting them together. You can have the emissions, you can have lights effect, and everything you could basically possibly imagine. So really, it's on Steam, and if you have a headset, or if you might think of experiment and try something new, something different, this is absolutely a tool that I would recommend. But then there was another problem, because if you want to animate stuff in the scene, it also has to be rigged and skinned. Who has ever rigged or skinned a character? let's say. So what do you use for it?
The banner video.
Okay. You see, I'm not familiar with that. I would have never known how to use it. And this is one thing, right? That some of these tools are these immersive tools, I believe, that also allow you to, how do you say that? Someone like me or other people that want to try, it's very easy to start, and you can get something workable with very easily. Same fact though for instead, if you are a professional and you have a skill set that you can bring into this, then the result that you can come up with are just incredible. Because, like for example, for 3D Flow, I don't want to make it sound like it was like something easy for noobs, because that same tool is used on scientific publication about cultural heritage preservation, right? So it's something that is legit. Same thing here. If someone like Cartoon Network released 3 games on Steam completely created with that, that means that there is some potential behind, and people that are skilled, not me in this case, but they could certainly create something even better. Okay, so I was saying about skinning and rigging. Skinning and rigging is basically about putting bones into a 3D model and assigning the skin to that bone so that when you move it, you see it moving, right? Very high level. But what I found is that, again, not knowing how to do it, trying Look and Blender was too complicated. What I found was Masterpiece Motion. Masterpiece Motion was born as a modeling tool. That means it's like sculpturing in VR, okay? But then they had this side program that was called Masterpiece Motion. And look, I'd rather show you how it works because I think it's most effective. So you have here a tree, for example, and you need to add bones to this tree. So with a controller, you just add the bones, right? So you just kind of like click, 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 click through all the branches, and probably something also on the top. And once that's done, you just start skinning. And skinning basically is that you assign each vertices of the model to a certain bone, right? So in that case, when that bone is gonna move, that portion of the model is gonna follow, right? And look, you see that, right? This is what 15 minutes, even less, I believe. And then you grab it, import it into the scene, and you can start keyframe animation. So here you see those dots where basically where the bones were, and then you can just move and play the animation back, and here you go. Right? So it's like from nothing, just knowing the right tools and start experimenting with it. I believe that there are so many opportunities that are open up for creatives. And this is where basically what we did. So we first created this animated scene. But then we also had to record something that was on the location with these educational bits, right? Where we were basically doing a tour. And here you see the skateboard, the wooden board, the duct tape, and that's because when you're shooting 360 video, if you hold the camera, you're gonna show up, right? You're gonna be visible in the shot, and this is something that you don't want. But what I did then was use this, tie a string to the end of the skateboard, wrap it around a pin that I put in the ground, around the lamppost here, so that I could be behind this corner pulling the string to move the 360 camera so that I was not in the shot. And the reason for this is because we wanted this camera to move inside the bushes and basically reappear in the other reality. Right? So we wanted to have this transition where there was like during the tour, with Anna explaining about the meaning, about the story about Pokemon Go and so on. But then we wanted to bring the user through the art into the other world. And it worked. Then there is still a little problem because there is still the rig, right? Or rig, let's makeshift rig. So what happened though is that it was possible to find a tool like Mocha Pro, and this allows you to basically like create a mask, and yeah, you can just remove it. Now, I have to be honest. I have to be more generous with the mask because you see here that there is still a little bit of shadow from Mocha Pro that was not removed, but the results overall I feel is quite impressive. So again, Mocha Pro, you're gonna find it there. If you ever need to do 360 creation, their suite is pretty expansive and goes beyond removing makeshift rig from a footage. So this is basically it. And at the end, we managed to put together this like 3 minutes plus short experience. And again, if you want later on, I can give you that, and then you can just check it out. You can check it out on the phone. And actually, I don't know if you have ever. Let me see. Because everybody thinks that. Have you ever used or checked out one of these? So this is basically like VR glasses, like the Google Cardboard, that you can just easily attach to your phone. So if at the end you guys want to try it, you can just come over, and it's just, of course, it's not like an high-end VR experience, but for any 360 movie that you want to put on YouTube, there is a little toggle at the bottom right that says VR. You just put it in, boom, and you can just share it with people very easily. So this was the VR experience, so to say. And to be honest, we were just on time. So fatherhood is gone. And when I was describing this two weeks ago, some friends of mine came here from Italy, and I was saying, hey, I'm doing this project. They wanted to go to Amsterdam, so let's go. Why don't we pass by here before? So I want to do something. Because what I wanted to do was, hey, I have a 3D model, why not put it there in augmented reality, right? So the place was completely fenced, and in that case, the research starts. So what I can use to make to do augmented reality, and one platform that I found was ARIs. It's completely free, and you can put in there 360 video, and also your creation that you have in VR. So it was actually, it was super easy. And here you have a short video of basically, and you see that there is nothing there because all the building has been like completely destroyed. There is just sand. And here was a friend of mine just taking a picture, just taking a short video to give a bit of an impression of how it looks like. Here, no. So this was about all about fatherhood. But during that same weekend, while telling them the story, I said, hey, maybe I can show you another couple of pieces that I think really matter. And what we did is that we went to another one. That was Destiny by Scout. And the reason for picking this and showing them this is because it has a very tragic story. Scout is a Spanish artist, and he is obsessed by mask because it's what, let's say, covers us who we are and our intention, our desires. And started painting Destiny with 2 other artists. One of them was that summer, unlikely war, 2013. So she was pregnant, so she said, better go back to Spain and then come back later. In Spain, 2013, there was a train crash. And 79 people died, including her and the baby. So Scout had to finish this artwork alone. And what happened is that when I was there, I saw that it was fenced. I was like, fuck. Was also that was going to be destroyed. So I'm like, wait a minute. So I remember that I had this app on my phone that I would claim that could scan 3D object just with your phone. I'm like, okay. And just to give you a short impression, here is how the app works. You see that by moving your phone, you can just create this point cloud, as I was telling you before, and create full photogrammetry capture of the scene. It works very well with street art. You can just edit in your phone, and then I'll also add extra object to it. The artwork can be shared with friends. People like it. It's a really kind of like social network for 3D objects. and you can download it right now for Android, iOS. And what I did is like, look, I just made a quick yeah. So here is just, you can browse through 3D scans of people, like as easy as that. And there is a feed, you see how many have been explored, like, can comment. And here I go to my to some of the stuff that I scan. And you see here there's a playhouse of my son. And you have that those diamonds that are loaded are basically objects that you can add on top of your scene to tell to tell little stories. And it doesn't look like this, just give a little bit of time to load. But then after that, you can just with pan and zoom just easily browse and explore your own creation. And you see that this was done in 5 minutes. This is literally done in 5 minutes, doing like this around my son's house, and that's it. That's it. You put it, upload it, and what is also interesting is that, for example, you can add notes. So what does it mean? That you add a certain notes to an area of the model that tells a little story. So this was this statue that I got in Amsterdam was about and I added a quote about music in this case. And this could have multiple purposes. For example, you can use it to explain a certain part of an object, or maybe tell other stories. And again, you just edit with your finger very easily. So I am there, and what happened is that it was fence. So I asked my friends, can you lift the fence? And they did. So it was very good that they were there, but then the alarm started ringing. I get under the fence and I start scanning because the police would come. It did. But I have to say they were very understanding. I was telling, hey, I'm working with the Amsterdam Museum, we're doing this, so please help me. Okay, can you give me your ID card? Yes, here it is. And the fact that I speak a little bit of Dutch, I think also helped. But for the rest, at the end, we managed to get this scan. Despite it wasn't the best, because there were literally construction things 40 centimeters before close to the wall, so it was really like not ideal at all. Yet this is like the scan of Destiny that was done within those 10 minutes before the police came, and is now basically available. You can just go there, explore it, and see. And I really hope that, in a way, this kind of story are not going to be forgotten, because I think it's something that particularly matters. And you know, something to completely blow my mind, at least, was that what you can also do is that you get this link and you have a VR headset. You can put the headset and be there on scale. You don't have to do anything. So if you have an Oculus Quest, that's right now is the most popular entry-level VR headset, you can just get the link and just explore this, as well as all the other creation that people put on this platform for free. And I didn't forget, you can also download this same object and keep working on it, right? So you can download it as an OBJ file and then experiment, use the texture, for example, for some of your creations or whatever you would like to do. So basically, that's more or less it. One thing I want to add is that if there is something that I also thought was particularly interesting while working on this, is that so it's how the barrier to start creating is getting lower and lower and lower. And if I think that the technical proficiency or depth behind this work is not that much, I think what matter in a way it's its story and why it came to be. So I really encourage you to start experiments with some of this stuff. And again, you can find me at grtalk.net, and here are the 2 PDFs. So if you want to start experimenting with it, please go ahead, and I wish that you all start playing with it. Thank you very much.